I'd like to introduce a special guest that we have this week. His name is Dan Spengler. He's from Berkeley. He's the senior hard bait product developer. He's done the flicker minnows, the hit sticks. He's working on a bait with me that is going to come out shortly. He's built all the hard bass baits. The guy really knows his stuff. But what's really impressive to me, and he started building baits when he was 4 years old. He is an excellent, excellent fisherman. Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be doing here for the folks?
Right, we're going to be fishing some shallow lakes for smallmouth bass and walleye. It's going to be great. We're going to be fishing different crankbaits, the new prototype crankbait that we have coming.
Sure.
Jerkbaits, jigs, maybe even some topwater. So stay with us and let's get that next bite.
Casting for smallmouth bass can be done all over the Midwest. Being a versatile angler and using multiple different presentations during a day of fishing can really increase your catch rate.
Oh, you switched to a jig. I was going to do that too.
I yigged him up because that break was so sharp. I figured I'd pitch the jig right on the base.
There you go.
That's a
nice
good fish, man.
Chunky 3.5 pounder.
Yeah.
They're built really nice in here.
Yeah, really fat ones.
Yeah.
Good deal.
It's very common to find smallies on lakes like Gary and Dan are fishing today. So these casting techniques can be utilized on many different lakes.
Across the northern tier of the United States, we've got thousands and thousands of what I call shallow water lakes. The philosophy for fishing a shallow water lake, you have to think in terms of small depth changes can be big factors. Let's say you have a sunken island and the middle part of the body of water, the bay that you're fishing is only 12 feet deep, but that sunken island comes up to 8 feet. So the top of the sunken island is like 8 feet. That's a monster piece of structure on a shallow water lake. Whereas if that was in a real deep water lake, it might not be so important. Okay, so think in terms of small depth changes, and that will help you understand how to break down that shallower lake. So we're looking for sunken islands. We're looking for rock points that extend out into deeper water, but deeper water might only be 15 feet. And so you're going to use your electronics a lot. You're going to scan, go along the shorelines, look for any boulders, look for little gravel patches that stick out into the water. Those are all important things to look for. But the one thing about smallies is they like rock. Okay, they love rock. So that's one thing when I'm looking at a lake like this, I'm going to concentrate on the rock structure. And you might find that they really like one of the ways that you present to them. Maybe they like casting crankbaits. And then you've got a fabulous day on the water because you're going to catch a lot of fish. Oh, I got one too, Danny. This is a good fish.
I'll grab the net, Gary.
Yeah, he just pile drive that bait too.
Oh, that is a good one, Gary. All right. There you go.
That's a pretty big fish.
That's a nice fish, Gary. That's a 20-inch fish right there.
That is a dandy.
You hit that crankbait pretty hard?
Oh, he smashed it. And I could just feel it going bump, 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 tat, 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 tat on the rocks, and all of a sudden, kawoom, almost ripped the rod out of my hand.
Yeah, we just saw those rocks on the side imaging too.
Yeah,
so.
oh yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna let him go. All right, buddy. Let's see if you can, we can let you go here.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly. Schaefer's Specialized Lubricants. Putting equipment first. Tracker Boats. Fish the finest. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Berkeley. Catch more fish. And Power Pole Total Boat Control. Closed captioning for the next bite is provided by Precision Trolling Data, the authority for crankbait diving depth information. Smallies can be found in all sorts of structure. Each one of those structures can be fished differently with different types of baits. Many of those baits Dan has had a hand in designing and knows them better than most anglers due to his extreme testing of bait actions.
When I'm out fishing in the fall, I like to use a lot of different baits and methods to help me understand the fishery, and ultimately I let the fish tell me what they prefer. So on a day like today, it's calm, and if we're chasing smallmouth bass, there's no more fun bait to fish than a Chapo. This is actually a 75 size. It's a very easy bait to fish, and the fish really respond to this prop tail action. I also love crankbaits. I've developed crankbaits for years, over 11 years at my time at Berkeley. And this new Money Badger crankbait, this is an aggressive action bait. It's a perfect smallmouth choice for the fall. I like to actually cast over the rocky structures, whether it's a point, rock pile. It's a go-to option in the fall. Another perfect option in the fall is a jerkbait. And this right here is a Hit Stick 13. I like to cast this along the shoreline. So if the fish aren't responding to a topwater bait or a crankbait, this is your perfect shallow water option. And you won't ever see me on a lake without a jig. I always fish jigs. It may not be my first or second choice, but they certainly are productive. And I like a max scent flatworm on a half-head jig. And I like fishing these, just pitching them along the weed lines, remnant weed lines in the fall. If you can find those, that's where the fish are gonna be. So hopefully you can take these 4 baits into consideration on your next trip and help you catch more fish.
Oh, I got one. This is a good fish too.
All right.
This is a
Set my
real
rod
good
down
fish.
here.
Pull a little drag,
right,
Danny.
I'll be up there.
Ooh, this feels like a good one.
Move these rods here quick.
Whoa.
All right, here it comes.
Yep. Oh, look at him. Look at him. Look at him.
Here he comes.
Come on, buddy.
There we go. Oh, and he just came off.
Oh, wow. Man, that's a good fish too, huh?
Yeah, there we go. That's like an 18-incher.
Yes, great fish, great fish.
Look at that.
It is.
They're really hitting this crankbait right
These
now.
baits are unreal.
Smallmouth killers.
Oh, they really are smallmouth.
Exactly what we set out to do with them too.
Yeah, they really are. I've never seen a bait that catches multi-species as good as this bait does. I never have in all the years I've been fishing.
Yeah, it's really a premier walleye and bass crankbait. So, and it's proven
cool.
itself.
Yep, absolutely.
Released for you, Gary.
Awesome, Dan.
Total Control, presented by Power Pole. 20 years of trust evolved from Total Boat Control.
Out here today we're trolling, and one of the really big mistakes I see a lot of people make is, their units that they're using. And what I mean by that is a lot of times a lot of guys are just focused on where they are, which obviously is very important. And obviously the depth, and this is kind of where it ends. And so to me, one of the missing parts of this whole puzzle is when we're trolling, we're going the perfect speed for side imaging. And side imaging you can learn so much from. And the way I set my unit up, I like to cover a lot of water. And so I have 100 feet each way. way, but I can really get an understanding for an area, and more importantly, I can get an understanding for where my bites are coming from. Instead of referring to waypoints that I may have dropped for a fish catch, I can understand what I maybe saw in my side imaging. Was it a boulder pile? Was it a little bit of finger that maybe that had sand where everything else was rock? What was the difference there? Side imaging is gonna tell me that and really gonna show me that. So utilizing side imaging sonar is really gonna help you understand a specific area, what those fish are relating to, instead of just trying to fish around waypoints. And so this is one of those things that's really gonna make you a better fisherman at the end of the day and really help you put a lot more fish in the boat.
Having a variety of options for actions of rods, line weight, and reels can really reduce fatigue and help you catch more fish. As you grow as an angler, you will also find it's just easier to switch rods rather than having to retie your bait every time you want to switch lures.
I'd like to take just a moment to talk about the gear that you use when you're going after these fall fish. The first rod and reel that I want to mention is a spinning rod. I'm a northern guy. I like spinning rods. This is my jig stick. It's 6'9" and it's medium action. I like a little stiffer jig rod. It allows me to get really good hook sets, and it kind of, to me, it accentuates that tick bite that you get. So it's a lot more fun. I couple that with 8-pound test Fireline and then a 15-pound test fluorocarbon leader. So this is the setup for jigging. For throwing crankbaits and the Chapo, this is a 7-1 medium light action rod. It's got good backbone for fighting the fish, but it's got a softer tip, again, for fighting big fish. Coupled with the same line, the same fluorocarbon leader. Now the difference is if I put a Chapo on here, I'll use this rod, but I won't use the leader. I'll just tie direct. Dan gave me that tip. It's a great tip and it works very well. Now Dan likes to, and many people like to throw their crankbaits and the Chapos with a bait caster, and this is Dan's setup. He uses a 7-foot medium rod. It's very lightweight. He couples that with an 8-to-1 ratio reel. The line that he uses is X9 braid. It's 30-pound test, and then unless he's using the Chapo, which he ties direct, if he's putting a crankbait on here, he'll use a fluorocarbon leader also, and that's that same 15-pound test, 100% fluorocarbon. So those are the setups to get you the right gear so that when you're out here, you're gonna be able to fight these fish, catch these fish, feel the bites, all of that stuff, and not have the wrong rods and reel setup.
Oh, good one.
You got one, Dan?
Yep.
A good one?
Good one.
Okay, I'll get the net for you. That looks like a really good fish, Dan. He hit way at the end of your cast too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he hit hard. Wow, these are powerful.
They are. Oh, look at that fish, Dan.
Oh, man.
Oh my goodness. He's, oh, come on.
Yeah!
Danny, that is a giant.
Look at this, I can just about reach in and get this thing. Look at that.
That is a giant.
There we go.
That is a good fish, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, they really love these Money Badger crankbaits. I mean, look
really
at this. This crankbait is just perfectly designed for smallmouth and bass and walleyes. It just catches everything.
Well, it's a unique action.
Yep.
There's nothing out there that has this type of
That's
action.
right. It's totally
And
unique.
obviously, we just hit the zone for the game fish, no doubt. Well, you can let that baby go.
All right.
We are all set.
All right. See you later, smallmouth.
Awesome,
All right.
Dan.
You know, one of the things when you're fishing crankbaits is the versatility of how you can actually vary your retrieve rates. You always start with letting the fish tell you what they like. So you can be fishing just a standard retrieve rate. That's good for a lot of situations. I'll actually vary my cadence all the way from fast to super fast. But I'll also use intermittent pauses. And sometimes those fish, they'll be chasing the bait, but they need something that changes the direction of the bait or the action of the bait or a pause, simply to cause curiousness of the fish to strike the bait. So you really have to pay attention to that. In the spring, in the fall, like we're fishing today, I like to cause the bait to dig down in the rocks and deflect. That erratic action, it kind of looks like a crayfish scurrying across the bottom. That can make the difference between catching 20, 30 fish or no fish.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly. Schaefer's Specialized Lubricants, putting equipment first. Tracker Boats, fish the finest. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, your adventure starts here. Berkeley, catch more fish. Lowrance, find, navigate, dominate. And Power Pole Total Boat Control. Hot topics, leading information and tackling techniques to make you a better angler. Presented by Mercury.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about fishing lines for trolling crankbaits. Basically, I use two different lines based on the situation I'm in. If I don't have to run my crankbaits right down on the bottom, in that situation, I like to use good old 10-pound XT. But the good thing is when you're trolling those type of situations where you're not too worried about feel, you can actually use this line and help you get more fish into the boat because it's got a little bit of stretch in it. So when that fish throws its head around, it'll actually give a little shock absorption and keep the fish on the line. Now, if I'm fishing my crankbaits tight down on the bottom, then I go to Fireline. 10-pound test Fireline is really good because it's no stretch. And in that situation where you got to have that crankbait down there, you got to monitor that bait. You got to be able to see that bait running on the rod tip. That no stretch line is going to allow you to do that. Now, in both of these cases, maybe you got to run a little bit deeper than that line will let you go. For monofilament, what I like to use is snap weights. Just simply run one of these right ahead of the snap weight, about 50 feet. Clip it on the line, and then I can run it down to any depth I want. If I got to get Fireline deeper, then I go to lead core. Just fill up my reel with lead core, but I still put a 15-foot leader of this Fireline on, so the whole system is no stretch and I can still do that monitoring. Now, one of the nice things about all of these is that you can go to what's called the Precision Trolling app. It's right on any smartphone. You can look up your bait. In this case, I've got the 7 flicker shad up there, and if you hit line type, the little button there, you can see it's got data for 10XT, Fireline, lead core, and the 50+2 data for the snap weights, so that you can use this system with these two lines and get your crankbaits down in the right depth to catch a lot more walleyes.
One of the best parts about fishing for smallies is walleyes often frequent the exact same structure.
And Gary's catching all the smallmouth, and then I'm getting the walleye again, so.
You know, that's the way it goes. At least the cool thing about this is you catch both.
Yeah.
You know, right, the same type of pattern. It's pretty cool.
Exactly.
It really is.
Yep. Yeah, it's nice. Nice fish.
Awesome.
All right, we're gonna get it back in the water here.
Walleye.
I think you've caught plenty of those through the years.
Using your electronics is a huge part of fishing for smallmouth, just like walleyes. Although in shallower water, you may not always mark the fish you are targeting, but you can use your electronics to find and mark structure.
What we're doing here is we're actually looking for an irregularity along the shoreline to be able to fish it. And so predominantly I'm searching with side scan. I'm looking for anything that might have some rocks on it. We're going around kind of, to me, on shore, this looks like it could be an ideal point. So I'm just graphing around the outside to see if there is rock, how far out does it extend? And if it's a little further than the rest of the shoreline, that's a player. That's what we want to look at. You know, you can see that there's some trees, and that's a tree there. Some character that's showing up there. There's actually quite a few trees, which is what we want. That's an irregularity that we might want to cast to. Obviously, when you look at this green, there's quite a few weeds. And then, no, yeah, there's some rock that's showing up now. You can see we've got rock extending out from this point. It's pretty easy to see. It's on both sides of the screen. So this is telling me here's a spot. Here's a spot that I have to check out. I got one here. Oh,
All right, I got the net, Gary.
this is a really good one.
All right, got the net.
Oh, wow. Here he comes, here he comes. Look at those water boils. Come on, buddy. Here he comes, Dan. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, I think I can get it right out here, Gary.
Okay,
there we go.
Good.
Coming up to you.
Good.
Look at that.
Look at that fish. These things are awesome.
Smallmouth are always
Yeah.
awesome.
These are always good fish.
Yep.
Man, oh man.
Super strong and
You know, I love fishing smallmouths. I fish them in the spring, I fish Sturgeon Bay Open,
yep.
fish them with jigs, but this is really a riot. These fall fish like this on cranks, they are so much fun because they just blast it.
Yep.
Absolutely blast it. Well, I'm gonna let this one go. See if we can get another one.
All right.
There he goes.
Well, I know it's not a
It's not gonna
smallmouth.
be something that we want to net, probably.
Come on, you're killing my glory hour here.
Did you see it yet?
No. I'm trying to get it up here. Gary caught a big carp the other day. I suppose it was only fair I got one too.
Well, I'm pretty sure that this is Dan fighting another giant smallmouth into the sunset.
If this was a smallmouth, yeah, it's a big carp on the back. If this was a smallmouth, it would be a world record.
That is a big carp. Whew. Need to hold that one up for the sunset.
Look at that. Big old carpy carp in the sunset.
It's awesome.
Yeah! Here we go.